Okay. So in the last session we saw how a knowledge-based economy operates. A business in a knowledge-based economy operates, right? So just to brush it up, it takes information, which is the raw material, and it converts into insights. And for this, employees have to bring in context is the primary skill here. Okay, so that's why the terms like exposure, learning, reskilling, everything comes into picture only with respect to the knowledge based industry. Okay, so right, a modern company, let's forget all the tribes and other things. Okay, as these things came into picture, right, we spoke about an agriculture company, a farmer and someone who is coming to this, right? After this era happened where people were able to convert information into insights, right? Every company, a modern company like these days, right, every company has some skill based work and some knowledge based work. Okay, there is no company almost that exists only because of knowledge based or only because of skill based. Okay, every company is a mix of almost, other than the consultants and other things. Okay, individual people who or group of people who are individuals who sell their expertise or something like that. Other than consulting businesses, every other business, right, has both these skill and knowledge. Okay, right, because in order to produce something, right, there are two things. A company is is a collection of lot of people, right? Modern company is a collection of lot of departments, right, lot of sub units of people, right? Even a startup has a development team, testing team, right? So we were talking about individuals coming together and forming a company. Now you have teams of individuals here, right? You get it, right? So here a company will become, it will get some input and it will create value, right? Exactly like this, every team will get something and create value. Okay, something is input and value is output. Okay, every team becomes a value generating or a value outputting system. A company is a value outputting system. Likewise, every units inside the company, which are individual teams, becomes a value output. This is how a modern company is structured, right? Some of these teams, like I said, they have the constituents of both, right? And some of these teams are going to be skill based and some of these teams are going to be knowledge based. Say for example, a modern agriculture or a farming company or a modern garment manufacturing company is going to have a garment manufacturing team, right, who actually manufactures the garment, right? And there will be knowledge people who are observing the trends of raw materials coming, new technologies of stitching, weaving, new machines coming up, and they will be updating the process of the manufacturing, right? Do you get it? So a modern manufacturing company or a modern agri company or a modern construction company, any company for that matter, should have both these teams to stay relevant, because skill is what gives them output today. Knowledge is what will keep them in business tomorrow, right? Because they have to, like how we individuals have to upgrade ourselves to the next level, the company collectively should upgrade itself to the next level, right? Because new technologies are coming, new processes are changing, right? This has been true ever since the prehistoric period, right? Because see, people were using bullock carts to farm their land, right? Before that, humans themselves were farming their lands, right? So without using a human being, using a bull for easier for farming, right? Humans used to pull carts, then bulls used to pull cart, right? So that is a technology. A farmer at that point in time will see, oh, they are using bulls to plow the land, okay, then I should also use bulls, I should not plow the land myself. That's what a farmer will think. That was the upgrade back then. Okay, now upgrade is thinking about new machines, thinking about new technology, thinking about new materials, new raw materials. So for a business to stay relevant, okay, first it has to make some value today, only then it can exist, right? For making value, skill is important. Okay, to keep themselves upgraded to the next tomorrow or day after tomorrow, or even to optimize the productivity of the value production, right? Knowledge, that's where knowledge people come into picture. Does it make sense? Because here is where people bring in new context to create new systems that will yield into value, that will increase the yield of value, right? Does it make sense? Right? So a modern company has two things. What these skill people do is they transfer value transition. Okay, and what these knowledge people do is they do value creation. Okay, so what does this mean by value transition is, what does a garment manufacturing team do? They take yarn, right, and they convert into fabric, right? They take fabric, the next team, they take fabric and they convert into garment. So these are different teams inside this. What are they doing? Is yarn of value? Yarn has some value, right? This value is getting translated into some other value, which is fabric, right? This fabric is of some value, right? This company can sell the fabric, right? This company can sell the fabric. They are adding some value, something to it and transferring into some other value, right? So they are transitioning the value, they are increasing, enhancing the value to it, right? They are not creating new value to it. Okay, but take another team in the same garment company, okay, that creates new line of products. Okay, someone has not done, they are only doing cotton business. Now they want to do leather jacket. Okay, because they see premium products, leather is good value, so they create. How to first manufacture the first leather jacket, design it, manufacture it, and then establish a process to create leather jackets is there, right? This is done by the R&D team probably, right? So they create new value. Leather jacket doesn't exist at all here, right? In this company at this point in time it doesn't exist, right? So the team that is proposing this, brainstorming this and creating a process to it, now that becomes the value creation. Okay, so a modern business is going to have both these roles. Okay, a business is going to have both these teams. Okay, right? Does it make sense? Okay, any sort of business is going to have both these teams. Okay, it is important for, so we are talking mostly from a manufacturing company. Okay, let's scope this down to software also. Okay, if this is a software company, okay, the end output is software, right? Some software, they are going to create a software, right? The software is the output, right? And this individual teams collectively work together to actually create the software, right? So which teams act as value transferring teams and which team act as value creating teams is what we have to understand here with respect to software creation. Okay, so as you can see in this system, right, value transition can be automated, right? In the garment industry, first they used to have weaving machines. Now a spinning machine is enough to create the weave. 100 people will sit and weave probably 500 meters a day. Now a spinning machine, a single machine will spin it in a matter of 1 hour or 2 hours, actually a few hours, right, without the effort of 10 people being involved, right? So the value transition has always been automated throughout human history. This is not the first time that is happening. Okay, value transitions have been automated time and again. People have lost jobs because of this. Okay. But value creation, how to create a new leather jacket in this company. How to create a leather jacket might be a common information, but the context of how to make it in this company, right, with the economic conditions of this company, with the where the company is located, with the skill sets of the current employees, right, that becomes a value creation, right. This cannot be automated. Some person has to do it, right. Does it make sense? Right? As a business, if a business is in value generating uh, business model, right? We saw the important aspect of the business is to retain the profit margin, right? Value or knowledge based businesses have the highest profit margin because they don't have raw material, right, because raw material will be a biggest expense for any business, right. So when information is the raw material, information is available for free for anyone to access, right. Most informations are free for anyone to access, right. So when the info and this context is also free, right, just you have to process it, right. So this doesn't incur any expense for the company, and this doesn't incur any setup cost also. You need not have to, in order to do agriculture, you have to buy a land. In order to make a weaving machine, you have to buy a machine. But here with the knowledge based economy, there is no need for, no expense of setting up things, right, and there is no recurring expense for raw material also. So the profit margin of a knowledge based business is the highest of any industry. Okay, so this is the basis of how the knowledge based economy optimizes profit margin predominantly. Since knowledge based businesses or teams are having the highest profit margin, right, that is highest revenue per employee, because there is no, you consider these individual teams as individual companies. Okay, there is a government that is outsourcing everything to different companies. Okay, so here among these companies, only one company will not, one company, which is that one team, this R&D team will not have any raw material expense itself. There is no setup expense other than hiring the employees. There is no setup expense. But here you have to set up things, you have to hire employees, you have to train them, all these things are there, right. So the margin, the profit margin for this knowledge based teams is the highest. Okay, and people see more value in them because they are value creators. Okay, they are not just following processes, they are implementing things to take to the next level. Okay, so with respect to software, right, so there are two types of teams in all knowledge based economy: value transferring team and value creating teams. Okay, in software, okay, let's try to scope down which team is value creation and which team is, or which skill is value creation. Okay, here we saw in manufacturing we could distinctly differentiate, right, teams with respect to value transition and value creation, right. Here the challenge with software is you cannot distinctly differentiate team with respect to value creation and value transition, because every one of us are working sometimes in value creation and sometimes in value transition. Okay, so the key in moving this forward is understanding what kind of works we do that are value transition and what kind of work we do that is value creation. Okay, because value transition can be automated. Value transition has always been automated. Okay, right, but value creation cannot be automated because it needs a human's critical thinking to think new outside the systems to create something of a new category. Okay, so value transition in a software company, examples, what are the things that we can say? Okay, if your work is to, not a role, okay, that's how I said, you individually do both these tasks. So you are not even, here it was differentiated by teams, here it is not even differentiated by team. Okay, practically it is differentiated by the nature of task that individually people work on, because collectively all people here are considered to be knowledge based, right, because knowledge based economy is software. That is how it is seen, right? So the bridge from knowledge based economy to software is information creation. As information creation became more critical in knowledge based economy, right? Which is the best medium to store information and process information is computer, right? Computer software. That is why software became more valuable in knowledge based economy. Okay, because the key input to knowledge based economy is information and the context and processing information, right? So with software you can store information and you can process information. What is the only thing that the software might not have is context. Context is how you see something differently and I see something differently, right? So this my personal context and the global context and the public context. My personal context is private to me. I might see something based on my context in a different way. You might see something based on your different way, right? So as knowledge based economy invested more on information to insight transition, and storing more information or logging more information became very important, right? Because only if you have information you can create value out of it. So storing information was the primary purpose softwares were created. Store information. Then what happens is we discovered, okay, not just storing information, we could even process information with software. Okay, some of the processes that these people do might be, see, these two things happened 50 years ago. Okay, first software was used only to store information. Okay, and then as people were using software to store information and trying to process them, there were a lot of people employed in processing the stored information. Okay, lot of people were employed, okay, in processing the stored information actually. Okay, if you read about NASA's moon project or the internet project, or during the World War II era, you will see a lot of in the US there were a group of women who were used as human calculators. Okay, so they were employed to do calculations. That's it. Daily they'll come, they will be given the info and they'll do calculations and of it. Okay, so what they were doing is they were processing informations. Okay, so this, then they discovered software could do processing also. Then all those women lost their job. That was the truth, right? So in knowledge based economy, these two things can be done by software always. Okay, can be done by software. This is why software becomes critical in knowledge based economy. Sometimes knowledge based economy and software industry become synonymous to each other, right? Because every knowledge based economy is seen as a software work. Every job in a knowledge based economy is seen as a software work because of this reason. Because information is stored in software and you are going to process things in software, right? So storage work was never a human work at all, because humans can only store so much. We always knew the limitation. Okay, the processing power of softwares and computer had been increasing. Okay, first when knowledge based industry was created, even calculations were not there, right? So only storage was there. Then what people started is they started to, like, these took a few years to come, right? Calculations started to emerge. Okay, when calculations started to emerge, that is a basic level of process. Since then, the industry has been trying to upgrade itself in increasing the efficiency of softwares doing process. Okay, softwares doing process, instead of humans doing process, software started to do process, right? So the first step in process is calculation, right? Basic step that they made software to do. Then second step, third step, fourth step, fifth step, sixth step, 10th step. Now we are in AI, LLM, everything. Okay, so from the basic calculations to the information processing, where it seems like a human's thinking is applied and some answer is being given, right? All this is context processing, right? Does it make sense? Okay. Okay. So from an information, you convert it into insights, and you are using a software to store information and to process the information. Okay. So such businesses who are focusing on value creation, right, will have both these works. Okay. And depending on whether you are doing what part of the process you are involved will determine whether you are value transitioning or value creating. Most of the time you are the only person doing this processing, right? Some information is given to you and you are doing the processing. This process involves both value transition and value creation. Most of the time you are the same person doing both these things. Say for example, you are asked to prepare an Excel report, you are asked to write an email, you are asked to find a report of the last month's logs or something like that. Okay. Or you are asked to debug the root cause of an issue. Okay. All these things come under value transition, right? Because you are only deriving, you are only doing something so that the final, no one is going to pay you for all these works, right? Will the customer pay us for all these works to a company? Will someone else see this as the final value or part of the final? No. This is done to enable the operations internally. So something that is done to enable internal operations, right, is value transitioning. Okay. Say for example, we are automating our testing through an automation in software. Okay. Right. This is done to improve the productivity of the employees, or is it done to deliver a value to the customers? Why is API automation done? So instead of letting an employee spend 3 hours to test the software fully, we are running it in automation and letting the employee review only the report. So now 3-hour testing becomes a 10-minute review of the report. So you are enhancing the individual employee's time, right? That is why you are automating, right? Even so, this is done not to create any value, but to increase the profit margin of the company, right? Reduce the expense, right? Because if I am using this employee for 3 hours to do this thing, he will not do anything else for 3 hours. But instead, I am making this employee spend on this for 10 minutes, and then I am trying to use the remaining 2 hours 50 minutes in some value creation work, right? This is how I can increase the margin, right? Does it make sense? So we first saw, right, how to increase the profit margin. That is the primary motto of a business, right? So in knowledge based, most of the time is spent in process, right? Context process, not the productivity process. Contexting, processing the information, right? Information processing. So if you are going to do all the testing and then process the information, and then, or if you are going to spend the time on developing a software that is already developed, or like you are going to spend time on finding the issue itself for a long time, and then fixing the issue is actually value creation, because customers will actually pay for it, right? But if you are spending more time on debugging itself, if you are spending more time of developing, it's an internal operation, right? I should optimize it. A software company should optimize it, right? Does it make sense? So with respect to software, how knowledge based economy operates is, we are operating on information and insight. Here, unlike other businesses, in software we cannot distinguish teams based on value transition and value creation. Okay. Every other employee will be doing some part of value transition and value creation. Since every other employee or every employee is contributing to value creation, everyone is considered as a knowledge based employee. Okay. And value transitions can only be automated, value creation cannot be automated. Okay. So value transition is what we can automate with a mission. So the primary person, now what it drills down to is, and value creation, value transition automation should be done by businesses to optimize their profit margin, right? So that they can also pay the employees more, right? So in software, if we are a software professional or we are a general knowledge based tech professional, what we have to do is our primary understanding should be is that before panicking, we have to understand whether what are all the tasks. We have to first understand and accept that we are doing both these things. Okay, and now we have to start classifying things. What are the things that you are doing for value transition and what are the things that you are doing for value creation? Okay, anything that you are going to do with respect to value transition or you are doing it as a value transition, okay, how to identify it? Okay, how to identify it is if this is going to bring in more revenue, like both these optimize the profit margins, right? Profit margin optimizes in two ways, right? One is increasing revenue, then second is decreasing expenses, right? This is how we earlier saw it, right? This is how profit margins. So anything that is done for decreasing expenses is value transition. Anything that is done for increasing revenue is value creation. Okay, so any task that you do as a software developer, right? Anything that any software professional, okay, we are doing both of these things. Our works, because here the teams are distinct, here the teams are not distinct. Okay, right? You are dealing with both these things. Then whenever you are approaching a task, the first thought you should have is whether is this to classify it, whether this is a value transition task or whether this is a value creation task. Okay, so I am sending a mail to customer, it's a value transition task. Is the customer going to pay us for a mail? No, right? Right? So I am developing a new feature that a customer will be willing to pay, right? I am ideating a new feature, right? That is value creation. Okay, I am writing code for a feature. Okay, I am writing code for a feature, right? That is already existing in open source. Then what it is? Value transition, right? That is what I am saying. If some code is already present there, you are not creating something new. You are just copy pasting from there and pasting here. If you are copying there and pasting here, yes, you have the capacity to write the code yourself. It will take 3 hours. But if you are only going to copy paste, it will finish in 3 minutes. Then what you are doing here, you are reducing the expenses because you will do some other work. So here you are only transitioning the value from somewhere else to here. You are not creating any value. Okay, right? You are giving a demo to a customer, right? You are talking to a customer to understand their pain points, to understand this, right? This is value creation, because at the end of that conversation, customer might be willing us to engage with us more, right? And they might be willing to pay us more. See, this is true for software services company, product company, any company, this is true. Okay, so your job involving, right, or you are doing a testing. Okay, testing occurs because of inefficiencies in the development process, right? That is why the bugs are being found, right? So if you are doing testing, you are not doing here, you are doing here actually, right? So this could be automated and could be made it as a review. It could be replaced with a review. Okay, see, both these works are important in a modern company. I am not saying this is a high profile job, this is a low profile job. I am not saying this is a more payable job, this is a less payable job. No. Okay, I am not making such claims. Individually, some people naturally incline into value creation, naturally incline into value transition. That is good for them. Okay, it is very important as employees to understand whether we align ourselves to value creation or value transition. Okay, that is fine. If you are aligning to value transition, that is very good. You just have to start identifying the right tools to automate it. How to automate it? That's it. Okay, so you will be spending time on the tools. You will be I am not talking about AI, LLM tools and all. Okay, see, testing, for testing, Selenium is a framework, right? Selenium is the tool that you have to learn and automate the testing process. You are still value transitioning only, you are not value creating. Okay, but that is good, right? If you are in the customer success, or if you are giving a demo, can I record this demo and share it to the customer? Okay, right? Giving a demo, maintaining the relationship with the customer is value creation, okay? But just explaining the technical features is value transition, right? So what even, I'm not even talking about AI, okay? What can I record this instead of repeatedly saying talking this? Can I record this and share it with the customer so that the customer can watch it at their own pace? Okay, so recording is an automation. There is no AI involved. There is no robots involved, right? You recording your thing or doing a presentation and sharing with the customer, it is also an automation. You need not repeat that same questions right and again, right? Defining a template for a contract is an automation, right? We have to send a contract, we have to send an employee offer letter. If you are going to, every employee is new, yes. If you are going to write offer letter for each and every employee, then it's not value creation, right? It's not going to, creating a word template in a Word document is an automation, right? Because you can give it to anyone, anyone can use it, and you can just repeat it with any employees, right? You need not think of the pointers or do anything, right? So if you are into value transition, so executives and employees both have to understand whether a role will primarily have more weightage to this or to this, okay? Not every role will be 50-50 or 90-10 or 80-20, okay? So first, executives and employees, when there is an opening, they have to understand whether a role is heavily on value creation or whether a role is on value transition. Employees should also understand whether their own role in a particular company is inclining towards this or that. It is going to be a mix of both, but towards what it is inclined, okay? And if they find themselves incompatible with value creation or with value transition, they have to switch, right? Majority, right? Executives also should think, if someone is being placed in a, someone who is very good at value transition is placed in value creation, it is going to be a help to them and to the company also, okay? So executives should, even when the opening is created, executives should understand with the job description whether it falls here or here, and then evaluate the candidates accordingly and place it here or here, okay? So as an individual, as an employee, you are going to have a mix of both. So you have to see, whenever you approach a value transition task, you have to immediately question whether this can be automated. Whether this can be automated or not. By automation, I don't mean RPA, AI, LLM, or creating a Word document template is an automation. Okay, not repeating a work is automation. Okay, you are using LLM, AI for that, not necessarily, or a software for not necessarily. A Word document is an automation, right? Writing a Selenium code is an automation. Okay, right? So, or just pinning a link in a group chat is an automation, okay? If someone is going to, say for example, we are going for a team trip, okay? And we have a group chat, okay? And in the team trip, we are pasting the itinerary in a message. After that, a lot of conversation happens, the itinerary goes. Usually, until we go to the trip, the itinerary will be referred immediately by a lot of people, right? So, in order to ease the access for everyone, you pin the message there. See, this is an automation, because a lot of people will be going to search the itinerary and you help them that, right? So when I say automate, don't think about AI, LLM or everything, but AI, LLM also comes under automation, okay? So whenever you are given a task, you have to see the components of a task, right? Components of the task are value transition and what components of the task are value creation. Say for example, you are given a task to develop a feature, okay? Right, or to win a customer, a particular customer. This is a task, right? Sell a product to a customer is a project, and developing a feature is also a project, right? Both these are value creation projects, right? If a customer is, we are going to acquire a customer, then the customer is going to pay us more, right? And if we develop a feature, we are going to get new customers based on it and our revenue increases. So at a high level, both these are value creation projects, yes or no? Yes, right? So this is a value creation project. I am going to write the code for it completely for the next 50 days. If you start writing that, then No, right? You have to split it. What part can be is considered as value transition? Say for example, if you are rewriting a code that is already available in open source, or already even in closed source, your colleague has written a similar feature which you can copy paste or something like that. I'm not even talking about LLM code generation. Okay, I'm talking about even in 2019, 2018, this is true. Whatever I'm saying is true. Whatever I'm talking now is true before 2020 even. Okay, this is very, very, very important. This context is very important. Don't get confused with AI or LLM. Whatever I'm saying is relevant in 2020 itself. Okay, right? Does it make sense? Yeah. So you are given a feature. You have to see, okay, I could use this open source code as a library. Let's say this feature requires me to parse date and extract value. Okay, is there an open source for it? I have to Google it. Okay, best developers of those years do this. Okay, okay, there is an open source. Okay, I will take it. Okay, there is no open source. I will write it. Okay, certain custom components I have to write it myself. So they spend time only on writing it. They don't spend time on writing boilerplate codes. Okay, so even those feature development is a value creation job, you drill down that into individual blocks and identify, okay, this is actually value transition. I can go and take it from somewhere. I can repeat something else. I don't have to repeat it. If it's value transition, don't repeat it. Automate it. Or if it is a value transition, this can be value transition, but I am doing it for the first time. Tomorrow someone else might also need it. Right? That could be the situation, right? Okay, a custom date picker is not present. I will write it today. In our product that it is not present, but I will write it today and I will make it available to the rest of the team. So now you created value, but you automated it for the rest of the team. That is how you have to think. Okay. So you have to split the project that you got and try to understand which part of it is a transition and which part of it is creation. Okay. Similarly, if you are asked to approach a customer and you want to acquire that customer, okay, what are the parts that you can automate it? Okay, automate as in even writing an email template is an automation, right? Demo script writing, okay, this is how I am going to give a demo. This is not the only customer we are going to win. Is the demo script already available with the team? Is anyone having already? Okay, so can I repeat it? But is the presentation templates already available? Is presentation already available? So if you are going to recreate it, then you are not doing it, right? So do we have a recorded demo? Can I record a demo and so that I can reuse it later, right? So how much ever we can convert a value creation job into value transition job, we can find new value creation works, right? So in software development or any kind of work that you do, right, we have to create something and then try to make it a transaction. Okay, and ensure that if you are working on something this, you try to automate it. Okay, but if you are working on something this, don't automate it. If you are going to automate this, right, if you are going to automate the first time itself, or if you try to optimize this for the first time itself, it's going to fail. Okay, you will not produce any value here, right, because you will be placing process, you will be giving more weightage to the process than the actual value creation. Okay, so there should be a clear distinction in every task we do, whether this can be automated or not, whether this can be transitioned or not, whether some value is getting created from here or not. The value is ultimately the profit margin. Okay, that's how executives have to think, that's how employees have to think. Okay, only if this can be set from an individual task point of view, right, we will be able to sustain the growth of the company in a knowledge based economy. any company who is going to have a sustained growth moving forward, right, will want all its employees, right, because all software companies are in knowledge based economy, right. In successful knowledge based economy, what will work is people superseding the process, right. We revisited that, right, people superseding process, right. As people, if you are not superseding the process, right, in value creation, right, then the company as a net will not produce anything of value. Totally, in total, cumulatively, they will not produce any value. Okay, so instead of value creation, most companies what they do is agile software development process. They are trying to make processes out of value creation. Okay, this was true before the AI era, because if you see the years between 2010 and 2020 or 23 is when all these project management, agile, scrum, everything got evolved in that last 10 years, right, where software development before that was value creation, and the industry was becoming mature enough by that point in time when they were trying to implement processes for these value creation steps. Okay, so it's a mix of what, R&D and manufacturing. Okay, so software is the only role where you actually do R&D and also do manufacturing, because in a manufacturing company, R&D will be done by a different team and manufacturing will be done by a different team. R&D, I'm not talking about scientists involving things, okay, just thinking and creating something new. That is what I mean by R&D. Okay, if you are thinking a new feature yourself, then that is an R&D for the product, right. So R&D and manufacturing are done by the same person in software. Okay, in software. And if you are working in manufacturing, your single task is going to involve both of these things. Okay, you have to understand a feature if you are a software developer, or if you are talking to customers, you are also doing R&D while you think that feature. Okay, if is this going to, how does this feature be used by customers, what is the expectation, what is the business problem. If you are thinking all these things, then you are thinking from the R&D mode. As you start writing code, you should actually be in manufacturing mode, right. So software development, actual writing of the feature is 80% manufacturing, only 20% new things are to be written actually, right, because otherwise it's if else or for loops, only those things, right, array parsing, JSON parsing, only those things, right. So for the most of it, software development is a manufacturing process. It's not the R&D process happens only when you think about the feature, how do you architect it, how many servers you need, how do you optimally make it, how do you make it secure. Those are the R&D things. Okay, so since software involves both of these things, over the years in 2020, 2010, even before 2020, people were focusing more on optimizing this manufacturing by introducing Scrum, Agile, and other things. Okay, right? But successful companies, right? Successful companies, widely successful companies, know which is manufacturing and which is R&D. Okay, and successful employees and successful career builders also know that. Okay, because that's not going to be the distinction of a team, not even going to be the distinction of an individual. I have both these works doing, right. You have, she has it, he has it, everyone has it, right. In a single task, even in a single project, even you're going to do both. So you have to be aware at a single individual task level, right, before deciding whether this is a manufacturing process or whether this is value transition or value creation. Manufacturing is value transition, right? You convert raw material into something. R&D is value creation. You think of something, right? Does it make sense? So, how to automate something is the core question where we have to ask here, and how to create something is the core question that we have to ask here. And this is subjective. This is universal. Okay. So, what can AI do here? right? What can AI do is the question, right? So this is the context. This was the scene until 2020. Whatever I spoke until now is true even before 2020 or 2023 for that when ChatGPT was launched. Okay, so until then everything was true. But whatever I said now, whatever we spoke now is true even today. Even after AI boom, nothing has changed. Okay, so nothing has changed. All these things, all these thought process hasn't changed. So AI is just a tool for automation. Okay, AI is just a tool for automation. So how to see AI with respect to this automation or value transition, right? So is uh, is depending on how we see the value transition process or how we see the value creation process. Okay, so we cannot use automation in value creation. Similarly, AI is an automation, so you cannot use AI in value creation. So why are people going to pay you? The more you do this, the more your value will be there, right? So value transition, don't we need humans in value transition? No, we need humans here also. But what is the role of a human being here? Is just to review the output of automation, right? Does it make sense? Because see, even with the garment industry, even after making a power loom, they put a human supervisor to that machine, right? Because so that they will review the fabric that is coming out of it. Similarly, you will need a human here. But before that power loom came, there were 100 weavers sitting and weaving. Now only one supervisor is there. Similarly, here also, right? 100 people are sitting in manufacturing in software, right? Now one supervisor is here. So this transition with respect to value transition in software industry automation is what is being enabled by AI. Okay, so if we have to be relevant, we have to focus more on this one, and since this is a transitioning period of the industry, we should also be thinking about what can be automated. Okay, this is a value transition task, how do I automate? This is a value transitioning work, how do I automate? That is the core thought process that every employee and every executive has to ask. Okay, so now that we saw what AI can do, like sorry, AI cannot do, or AI should not be present, or things should not be automated with respect to if a company has to make money. Okay, I'm talking from a money point of view. It's not that you cannot use or you should not use or something like that. Okay, if a company has to make sustained money for another 100 years or something like that, right, then you should not use automation in value creation. You have to use automation in value transition, only then you will be relevant, or else you won't be relevant. Okay, does it make sense? This is, you should think from a business's point of view to your individual point of view, and classify every task that you do between both of these things, right? Does it make sense? Any questions? Any questions? Yeah. Okay.